Good day, students. Today we will be discussing about the practical aspects of heart ticks. In the practical aspects of heart ticks, we will be discussing about the identification, the morphological characters on the basis of which we can identify the different genera of heart ticks. Now, we have already given this in the theory, so about the mouth parts of heart ticks or mouth parts of ticks. Just a brief discussion on that. So on the left hand side picture, as you can see, the tick is having the blood meal. It has damaged the capillary, and you can see how it is taking the blood meal. Now here you can see two important things. One is the chelicerae. These are the chelicerae. This is a small structure. This is a chelicerae, as you can see it here, and the median hypostome. The chelicerae and the hypostome are they penetrate into the skin, whereas the pulse they remain outside, and this is how the feeding takes place. Now this also we have discussed the different characters, different morphological structures. So just a brief revision, because on the basis of these morphological structures we are going to identify the ticks. So first important morphological structure that we will see is the capitulum or the basis capituli. Okay, the shape of the basis capituli. Number two, the mouth parts, whether they are longirostrate or brevirostrate. Now how to understand it is longirostrate? The mouth parts are long. If the mouth parts, that is the palps, they are longer than the length of the capitulum. So if they are longer than the length of the capitulum, or they are equal to the size of the width of the capitulum, or longer than the width of the capitulum, they are known as longirostrate. But if the palps are equal to the length of the capitulum, the length of the palps or the mouth parts is same as that of the basis capituli, they are called brevirostrate. Now apart from that, the males and the females, they can differentiate it on the basis of the scutum. In the males the scutum is complete, whereas in the females the scutum is partial. The presence or absence of eyes, okay. Then presence of festoons on there are a row of notches which are present on the posterior margin of the heart ticks. Then if they are ornate or inornate, okay. And then on the ventral aspect, we will see on the ventral aspect. The ventral aspect, the important structures are, you will see the genital pore. The genital pore is present in both males and females, and then the anal opening. Now this is most important structure, the structure surrounding the anus. There will be an anal groove. This may be posterior or this may be anterior. Now remember one thing, almost all the ticks, they have a posterior anal groove excepting Ixodes, which has got an anterior anal groove. Then there are ventral shields or armors. The cuticle in the ventral side is forming plate-like structures. Now there may be adenal plates, accessory adenal plates, or posterior anal plates. So all these are some of the important structures that we have to remember. The shape of the spiracles. Then the coxa, you can see here the structure on the coxa. The coxa may be having a spur, the coxa may be bifid. So all these are some of the structures which we will look into while we study the characters of the ticks. Now one important structure I missed out in the theory, that is the Haller's organ. So what is a Haller's organ? Haller's organ is nothing but it is a sensory organ or a sensory pit which is present on the first tarsal of every tick. Now this sensory organ, it contains setae or hair-like structure. You can see the electron micrograph of so this is the first tarsa on both the legs, and in that you can see the electron microscopic picture of the setae. Now this setae or hair-like structure is sensory in nature. With the help of this Haller's organ, the tick can sense the host. So this is mainly for sensing the host. Okay. Now let us come to the ticks one by one. Now if the video is too long, I will divide the video into two halves, not a worry. So this is the first part, that is the Rhipicephalus. So Rhipicephalus is a hard tick. Now there was a genus earlier known as Buphyllus. Now based on the morphological characters and based on the DNA analysis, mainly analysis of the 18S ribosomal RNA gene, the ITS1 sequences, then the 16S mitochondrial ribosomal gene, and the Cox one, it has been found that the Boophilus genus is similar to that of the Rhipicephalus. So this has been already classified under Rhipicephalus. But how we will see the morphological character of Rhipicephalus sanguineus Rhipicephalus microplus separately. Now in Rhipicephalus there are two important ticks which are found in India. Rhipicephalus microplus, which is bovine tick, and it is responsible for transmission of Anaplasma marginale, Babesia bigemina, Babesia bovis, and there is another species of dogs which is also known as the brown dog tick. It is called the Rhipicephalus sanguineus. It is responsible for transmission of the pathogens like Babesia vogelii, Babesia chipsoni, and Ehrlichia canis, as well as Ehrlichia platis, as Anaplasma platis, as well as the Protozoa Hepatozoon canis. Now, so these ticks are generally brown in color. So as you can see, this is the left side is the female tick, right side is the male tick. So we will see the characters of the tick's female tick first. So mainly the basic character that we can identify the Rhipicephalus is based on the capitulum. As you can see, the now 3 number, the capitulum is hexagonal in shape. Now this base on the capitulum lies the mouth parts. These are very rostrate ticks. As you can see, the mouth parts are all shorter than the width of the capitulum. Now this is now the next structure that you will see, the eyes. The eyes are present on the side margin of the scutum. So you can see this eyes, 6 number. Festoons may be present or may not be present. In Rhipicephalus sanguineus, festoons are present. In Rhipicephalus microplus, the festoons are absent. Okay. Now let us talk about this. So these are the important characters of females. Now one important thing is that if you have to identify the genus and the species, the most important is to go for the identification of the male. The male reveals a lot of characters on the basis of which we can identify the genus and the species. Now let us go for the male. Now here you can see in case of male, the Rhipicephalus, the hexagonal basis capitulum, short mouth parts, the festoons, and on the ventral aspect. So this is the dorsal aspect, this is the ventral aspect. So in the ventral aspect you see the genital opening, anal opening, the number 10. Just posterior to the anal opening you see the anal groove. There is a posterior anal groove. Now on either side of the anal opening or the anus are the adanal shields. And just lateral to the adanal shields are the accessory adanal shields. They're the accessory adanal shields. Now this is about Rhipicephalus microplus. So what additional thing we find in Rhipicephalus microplus? One of the important structures, there are many structures which are important in Rhipicephalus microplus, but one important structure is the first coxa is bifid. The first coxa is bifid, and apart from that you see the anal opening, the posterior anal groove, the adanal shields, the accessory adanal shield. Apart from that, on the posterior margin of the male, only it is found only in the male Rhipicephalus microplus, you will find a caudal process. So this is the caudal process you find in case of male Rhipicephalus microplus. Okay. Coming to the next species, that is Hyaloma, genus that is Hyaloma. Now this Hyaloma, the type species, the important species in India we have is Hyaloma anatolicum, which is responsible for transmission of Theileria annulata. It also responsible for transmission of Crimean Congo hemorrhagic fever. It is also responsible for transmission of Theileria lestocardi, Theileria ovis, okay, Anaplasma ovis. Now let us see the important characters. So one important thing, the Boophilus, they are inornate ticks. So coming to Hyaloma, the genus Hyaloma, they are primarily inornate, but some species may be ornate. Hyaloma anatolicum is inornate tick. Now they are longirostrate. So as you can see, this is the capitulum. The capitulum, and you see the mouth parts. The mouth parts, they are longer than the width of the, so this is the width of the capitulum, they are longer than the width of the basis capituli. So this is longirostrate tick. Second important thing. So the second important thing is that the legs, as you can see here, this is the color. The legs have got whitish ring-like structures. Whitish ring-like structures. This is a schematic diagram and this is a photograph. So these are known as bont-legged ticks. So that is why they are called the bont-legged ticks. They have pale ring-like structures or areas in the legs. The posterior margin of the has got festoons. So they have festoons here. Okay. And then on the scutum you will find distinct ridges and depressions. The scutum has distinct ridges and depressions. Now coming to the male tick. So as you can see, the male tick, the most important thing, again we go to the coxa. Okay, the coxa has got two large spurs. Each coxa, you can see the two spurs. This is typical of hyaloma. Then coming to the anal opening, there is a posterior anal groove. Then apart from the posterior anal groove, you will see adenal plates. You can see here also. These are the adenal plates, accessory adenal plates, and in some cases you will find the subanal plate. So three structures: adenal plates, a pair of adenal plates, a pair of accessory adenal plates, and a pair of subanal plates. Okay, so this is about hyaloma. Then let us come to amblyoma. Now these amblyoma, again you can see the male tick. This is the male tick on the right side, the female tick on the left side. The most important thing in amblyoma, they are ornate ticks. Now you can see the colored pattern on the scutum. It has got a enamel like color pattern on the scutum. So that is why they are ornate ticks. You can see the legs again, both male and female. The legs have got pale or whitish band like pattern or ring like pattern, that is why they are also called as the bont-legged ticks. Similar to hyaloma, they are called bont-legged ticks. Similar to hyaloma, they have got long mouth parts, so they are longirostrate. They have festoons on the posterior margin. They have eyes on the scutum. Okay, the scutum is, eyes are present on the scutum. In case of here also, the eyes are on the scutum. Now how to differentiate then between the these two ticks? How can we differentiate? These two ticks, the hyaloma, they have all the important structures, but hyaloma can be differentiated from the amblyoma based on two important structures. In case of females, so if you see the second palpal segment, this is the second palpal segment. If you look closely, the second palpal segment has got a gap. Okay, let's come to this. You see, so this is the second palpal segment and this is the median hypostome. You see the second palpal segment and the median hypostome has got a gap in between them. There is a small space, but in case of hyaloma, this gap is almost absent. You don't see the gap in hyaloma, but in case of amblyoma, the second palpal segment in the hypostome has got a gap. Okay. Now the most important thing, the hyaloma has got two spurs, a pair of spurs, whereas in case of amblyoma there is a single spur. So remember these points of difference. The second palpal segment has a gap between the hypostome. Number two, the first coxa has got a single spur, hyaloma has got two spurs. Now most important thing, there is a posterior anal groove, but here what you have, the plates, the sclerotized plates, the adenal plates, the subanal plate and the accessory adenal plates, they are absent in case of amblyoma. They are absent in case of amblyoma. Only small ventral plaques may be present. So amblyoma doesn't have, the male amblyoma doesn't have the adenal plates or the other accessory adenal plates or subanal plates like that of hiloma. Okay, now the other species I will be covering in part 2.